the 352nd Julian Assange Sydney Town Hall gathering. If we are serious about protecting our fellow citizens from human rights abuses, we must think for ourselves. We cannot rely on other human beings to think for us, because other human beings do not necessarily have the same concerns that we have. Other human beings are often motivated to express opinions that suit those who pay them. For example, high-profile people in the mainstream media keep their high-paid jobs by maintaining the narratives of those that employ them. And people employed by large corporations generally are actively discouraged from expressing opinions that go against the interests of their employers. When people outsource their thinking to those who express opinions that are very much controlled by those who hold power, we help to form a compliant population that marches in time with mainstream narratives. Fortunately, many of us don't think exactly like the mainstream narratives tell us to think. But this is often not enough to guarantee independent thinking. The internet provides us with a plethora of what might appear to be independent voices. However, we need to consider that many of these voices may also be funded and supported for the purpose of providing a controlled opposition to the mainstream media and supply us with ready-made but flawed counter-narratives. Purposefully flawed counter-narratives won't serve any of us who seriously wish to see the world where everyone's human rights are respected by our systems of governance. Flawed counter-narratives seek to demonize others and create division. Flawed counter-narratives contain falsehoods that are unhelpful and waste time. The adoption of flawed counter-narratives helps to suggest that anyone who opposes mainstream narratives is worthy of ridicule. We must therefore think for ourselves. Blind faith performs no useful function in the pursuit of truth and human rights. Of course, there are many people who don't want to think for themselves. We cannot make others think for themselves, but we can attempt to make sure that we do. The free speech zone at Sydney Town Hall is a place where people who wish to think for themselves can come together and express themselves. When people who can think independently come together within an environment where universal human rights are held in great esteem, we should expect truth and real solutions to be the outcome. If you can, come along to our gatherings and help do the work of standing up for the human rights of our fellow citizens. The Assange movement continues. Free, free, free the truth. Free, free, free the truth. Free, free, free the truth. Thank you.
Oh, can I give you a leaflet?
Yeah, where's he being sent from? Is it Australia to you?
Oh, no, so Dan Duggan, you mean?
Yeah,
Dan Duggan is a former US Marine Top Gun pilot.
Sorry, but where they're trying to send him from?
Dan Duggan is here. Dan Duggan is here in Australia now.
Where is he now?
Now in an Australian jail, awaiting extradition.
All right, so it's the extradition.
I'm first generation Australian, born in '83 here, Darlinghurst Hospital. So as you're finishing off the whole gay and lesbian Mardi Gras that goes up the parade there and it goes, turns right, there was a hospital, Darlinghurst Hospital, that's where I was born. But the earliest memories from them was Dad always coming home and saying, "Ja muszę iść na zebránko." In other words, I need to go to a meeting. I need to go to a meeting, constantly saying, I need to go to a meeting. Because it never left him that he was forced to go from Poland. He would have stayed in Poland, but because of the way he was an agitator, as a boss, as a manager of a company, and the way he used his workers to strike and protest, they forced him to leave, and we left the furthest point away from Moscow, and then that was Australia, not America. The America was the other option. It was either America or Australia, and on the map, Australia was further from communist Russia. But here he goes, I need to do something. I've left my comrades back in Poland. I have to do something here. So it was the meetings here to do the protest, like we are with the Assange movement here. So I'm assuming that's in my blood to do these types of, but he went further and did hunger strikes next to the, or on that main street, as all the embassies are in Canberra. He did a 1-week hunger strike there in a van that he parked outside the Russian embassy. And this is all recorded on the Solidarity Encyclopedia. If you type in the word Simone, you see his biogram come up in his picture, and on it says the meetings that he had in Poland and the continuation of those meetings of the free settler Poles in Australia. That's what the group that he was called, and they did protest here in Sydney, in Hyde Park, in the consulate in Edgecliff, the Russian consulate, and then the embassy in Canberra. The one that I was told about, and I kind of distinctly, it was that a 1-week hunger strike. So that's the earliest memory, and the second one memory was the redundancy. If he was born in Australia, if he had his time again here, he didn't have a family, he'd be going after attending AGMs and going after expressing the lived experience of the workers here in Capral, which was the company that he was employed in. Mind you, they never, Australians, and I'm assuming that's across the board for migrants that have come from other countries, your skills that were in the other country were never recognised here, so you do your medial jobs here, or you get your contacts to try and get the best of the the medial jobs here, and his was a fitter and turner. That's the stamp that he's the fitter and turner, and he got into Alcan as it was, and then it changed to Caprel Aluminium. Relating back to my lived experience here, going with him to the final day, the redundancy papers and me having to translate, and him saying, look, son, if I had my time again, I'd be going after these people. So yes, having the job, but then having that, because it's only once a year, they had the general meeting, getting them one share, and then pressing them and putting the lived experience of the workers. And I've gone, I was always trying to work out how to get to that point, trying to get to a stage where I could do that, which I have finally.
So he had the experience in Poland.
Yes, as a manager.
A manager of
several hundred people.
Several hundred people who
in an electromedical
doing manual work.
Yes. So
he was sympathetic to them.
Yes, he organised them to do then strikes and protests to undermine the communists in Poland. So he found out, and then they've gone, no, you can't do that. Stop doing that. And he goes, no. Then they imprisoned him. After his imprisonment, he had in the papers it says, because there were secret files on each of these people, like the ones in East Germany. Those papers are also the papers that were in communist Poland on individuals, and in communist Romania, in communist, all where communism was in Europe, they had. And I was able to, at least 200 secret papers that were, when he was being surveillanced, his day-to-day surveillance. And after he's come out of prison, they've gone, you can't do this anymore. You don't, we'll kill you. And that's when he went to the Polish embassy trying to figure out, I need to seek peace somewhere, asylum or whatever, as a political dissident somewhere in the world. And they've directed him to go to Germany, to the either the American embassy or the Australian embassy. So he's personally gone, which is the furthest? I'm going to go to the German embassy in Berlin, and hence he's ended up here. He's had the experience, and then the experience here wasn't the menial workers that he was organising was the position, that menial position he was put here, a fitter and turner and nothing else. No management experience that he had, nothing.
So he experienced what it was like here.
Yeah.
And how do you know how that compared to back in Poland? He didn't experience being a menial worker in Poland.
That he was,
but he thought that the management were not good here.
No. And he said if he had his time again, he would have no family, because obviously he got the mentality of you're earning, all you're doing here is your 9 till 5 to the grind, trying to get as much for your family as possible, rather than. He was able to do that, but before he was forced to get a job, he was doing those protests against the Russian embassy and the consulate to push the solidarity movement that he was doing in Poland. But then once his nose got to the ground, if he had his time again, he would be going after the management, how the managers, specifically of Alcan, and then when it converted to Caprel Aluminium, how they treated their workers. And I'm assuming that it's done to this day. It's probably even worse. But having that knowledge to attack them in their own place, these annual general meetings, these corporate annual general meetings, having the English to do it, and then understanding the procedures, and then putting the point. So that was what he was relaying to me on this final day of work when he was going to be made redundant, the final papers, me going there, helping him translate to fill out these papers, and that's the end of his 15-year job in Australia. That was the memory that sort of shaped me to the person I am today. Now, following from that, the next memory was when the pivotal period in high school, where all high school is geared to is the HSC. Before you get to the HSC, you got to do specific exams that'll get you into the specific, whether you're studying advanced English or standard English, advanced mathematics or standard mathematics. And the one that was pivotal to me was this English one, where if you do get a certain result, 85 or above, you get to study Shakespeare, etc., etc. This English classics I was able to attain that. And in that meeting, when they had all the cohort of people that had achieved the result to study the English, this advanced English and 3 and 14 English, they said, you are special. You now have the ability, or you will gain the ability to differentiate the standard English that everybody, the general population, is exposed to. And that hit me, and why I remember that to me, I remember that today because this is separation of, we're not an equal society. They're already separating people to understand on a certain level. I thought I thought, I want to get the heck out of here and tell the other people that are doing the standard English, this is what's going on. I've gone, you're telling me this, and I'm assuming on different levels, if you look at it, expand yourself out of that, I'm assuming that kids that go to selective schools are told this the same thing, but in a different context. This, how special you are because of this. We're now giving you access to a greater understanding of maths or science, English in terms of, in my case, to then being able to study King Lear, and Julius Caesar. And I would admit, I stopped reading your daily telegraphs and your Sunday telegraphs. So the next memory that shaped me.
Do you think it's like, we're going to show you the secret of how the country is governed?
We're going to show you in a bit an understanding that the rest of the population has only an understanding of a year 9 level of standard English. I'm like, what the hell? But that's the majority of the population.
Your status is up a little bit.
Yes.
And you're let in on the secrets, the information that Shakespeare was telling everybody about a corrupt system.
Yeah. That's never been made to me before, and I was only gaining it to just gain another understanding. These people that had set this exam and then brought everybody together, made this clear to everybody in that room, you now have a greater understanding and can critically, maybe they were saying, maybe by doing this, it's in your, we're putting our trust in you to be able to critically examine and maybe change the system because you have a greater understanding of the system. But then specifically explain that now we now have a greater understanding than the general population. That's sort of that. To this day, it sort of goes, there wasn't an equal, there are levels in this society.
Was it a bit like the Assange t-shirt that said 1984 is not an instruction manual?
Yeah.
Meaning it was an instruction manual.
It is an instruction manual.
Yes.
And then from that point, I asked why, and I wanted to know more why. Why is this the case in Australia? They're supposedly the most democratic, what my parents were told when they came here, this paradise of democracy. One of the first democratic parties, the first democratic party system was established in Australia, if not the second most. Why is this the case here? I asked myself the question why, and then I went on to university and I found I did a Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Economics, Bachelor of Business. And in one of the arts classes, I found this guy called Gerard. Unmistakably, I remember him today because he had a mole on his cheek. He described himself as a worker travelling in and out of Canberra, working for the Liberal Party, at the time in 2002, 3 and 4, the Howard government. He was working in the bloody offices of Tony Abbott and John Howard. So why? John Howard had got him, Gerard, because his family attended a Liberal Party function here in Sydney, Darling Harbour. And they presented Gerard to him and have gone, our boys are doing anything, can you make... And this is Gerard, he's gone, right here, they got him from this, nothing more, just because they attended an event, and they made a staffer out of his son. The parents have introduced him, they made a staffer out of Gerard, and then Howard recognised they don't have qualifications. He made a deal with the university, this is Gerard telling me this, that his staff is to get greater education. Howard made a deal with his staff to get degrees at University of Western Sydney. from the stories that I got from him, specifically about Tony Abbott, because he had worked in Tony Abbott's office first and then John Howard's, he said that more than any other politician at that time, the early 2000s, Tony Abbott had the most swear words from John Howard directed at him. You effing this, you an effing incompetent this, F that. And from that, why I remember it today, it's why it's shaped me today, this system is based on these people driving a specific narrative, but specifically following a course so they can create a platform to convince the rest of the population, tying in with this whole year 9 understanding level that I got in that exam to get me to advanced English. These people were driving that to try and capture these people that have this understanding. But the focus, which what John Howard was on about and Tony Abbott wasn't following, was to keep ramming this thing, not to separate yourself from it. And you had, because Tony Abbott was, as people, this Rhodes Scholar, Howard was on him, John Howard swearing. Who's ever caught John Howard swearing? But in the office, Gerard was saying the most vitriol F-bombs, F this, was directed at Tony Abbott. This up-and-coming minister, because I'm assuming that John Howard had ambitions for Tony Abbott to become some sort of leader. That's why he was pushing it. And from that, I'm going, these guys, I never looked at politics to say, when you type in Gerard, he then became, in the final Tony Abbott as Prime Minister, he then went like John Howard. John Howard had to be tossed out of office. Abbott also went to the Manly election. Gerard was his campaign manager. So if you Google Gerard or Tony Abbott campaign manager, that's the person that was in that John Howard got to to upskill themselves to be his staffers at University of Western Sydney. Because he was going in and out and then that, to me, it remains as a memory of going, so this is how this system, tying that in with that, this is how this system is rigging a type of formulation that's involved. After that, it's been more programs. So you've had...
It's like they've got a system of rules to follow, and then they just carry them out.
Yes. So what I was seeking the why after the English examination. Why would they then deem us to be having a greater understanding? And why do you need a greater understanding? And then I found the other why, trying to tie that in with this Gerard staffer. And then it came down to, and also part of that was, what is the ideal politician? And then you have this book called The Machine Politics, and how all of, whether it be Howard, Costello, they were more or less looking to Paul Keating as this standard machine politics guide to how to interact with the general population, how a Australian politician must act as a standard, machine politics, the machine politics of Labor, but how the Liberals adopted that to be not as verbose as Paul Keating was, but the way in which he was driven in politics. This machine politics, it's a book that the Liberals were looking at. And then I tied in with that, like, this is the machine politics. Why is there a machine politics? This book that supposedly that the Liberals are looking at and looking at Paul Keating, how to become more like Paul Keating. And obviously they failed because they don't have that verbose, the way Keating had with his words. But what they had, the drive that Keating had. But I'm assuming this is the change. With population, the general, this year 9 level are waking up to it. Because then you've had this change. Okay, Howard had the 10 years, but after Howard you had this change in politics because people are waking up to it.
I'm struggling a little bit with the machine politics.
This is the way you got to act.
Right.
Machine politics in Australia refers to the tight control exerted by centralised party factions, power brokers and institutional organisers over candidate selection, policy direction and resource allocation. Rather than grassroots policy making, major parties often rely on internal factional machines to manage elections and maintain discipline.
Because Keating would also get, like I watched him on TV, and he would get everyone agreeing with it.
Yes. He should have beaten John Howard.
He should have.
And that's what Gerard was sort of saying. Look, Keating was the ideal politician. Everyone wants to be like Keating, but he went too far in touching the Queen, in doing these certain things. But overlooking that, he had the drive and this sort of the makeup of what the ideal politician, to convince the masses and to being in their place.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the Liberals are trying to be like him. That's what I got from Gerard in the conversations that I had with Gerard. These weird insights into into Howard's office, into Abbott's office.
But it would appear that if there's any value in the polls, or the voting, that the public decided they didn't. Keating was too clever, I think.
He had So that's,
he was perhaps arrogant or something.
Yeah. Like John Hewson and the GST cake. He wasn't able to answer it, and Keating just went probably too far in showing his hand to his disdain in sections of the population. Even though he did what he did with We Say Sorry when he had the whole Redfern speech. But in general, I think he had a disdain for sections of society, and I think he showed that too much, and I think that's why he lost. So after that, the thing that struck me the most that I still remember was this documentary called We Are All Watched by Loving, The Grace of Loving Machines. And it had Ayn Rand and her theory of objectivism in it. I'm saying in that program, it sort of set up how what we're experiencing with AI. It was more or less setting up AI. So, the point that they are introducing Ayn Rand and her theory of objectivism, we are a machine, we are a monkey in a machine and a machine and a monkey. And we are going towards a future of a cybernetic future. Machine, monkey, monkey and machine. And that's what we should have as men. She was referring to men when in her theory of it, that we should have ambition, but it's all organized into a machine type of ecosystem, a thing where we're going into a cybernetic future. This was in the just me coming out of university. That film struck me the most in tying in with the way in which society is already structured to a certain level of understanding, and then you had the bull crap, the way in which our leaders, the politicians, are ramming to us to be on a certain level, to keep us at this level. That's what I thought more or less got out of Gerard. They want to keep us at a level by their own adherence to a certain structure as they go out in the media. So Howard shouting at Abbott, F you, you've got to do it this way. So when they go out in media and speak to the public, they're making sure that we keep at that level. That's what I kind of gleaned from why was Howard so...
It's like they've got a system of keeping people under control.
Yes.
And it works.
Yeah.
And if you deviate from it, it won't work.
Yes.
And so Howard was drumming that into Abbott. Abbott may have never quite got it.
Yeah.
And so he wasn't as successful as Howard.
But he ultimately does become Prime Minister.
He did, but
But that time he was a hopeless idiot who was showing his Rhodes Scholar intelligence. And that was that Keating. So to drive the Keating out of Abbott.
Was Abbott then...
That flamboyance of Keating out of Abbott to become that more structured...
Yeah. But was that then because our impression, or my impression of Abbott was he was a little bit dopey?
Or he was made to be dope.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes. He was made to... So he has
He had to
fragile,
do things like...
to show that he wasn't above you.
Yeah, so he was
Looking down
at
above you
the
that I know.
petrol pump. Every
Yeah.
night he was doing something menial,
Yeah.
like everyone else does, filling the carts, his big gas tank up with petrol, or he's biting an onion.
Eating an onion, doing things that that you could say are kind of clumsy. Your leader would be doing that. That's what probably was drummed out of Howard going at Abbott, to get that sort of upper nose thing that you had in Keating, to get that out of Abbott's Rhodes Scholar. And you had hints of that the wording, that Rhodes Scholar wording in some of the questions that he had in question time from Abbott. But that all, which I think
So is
Howard
it that, like,
drove
you've
that
got
out
to
of
be
it.
a man of the people,
Yeah.
and yet you wouldn't say Howard was really a man of the people, but he was called the Battler, wasn't he?
Yeah. The people's butler. Your
But he
favourite
was-
uncle?
But he was
Your
also,
favourite granddad? I don't know.
I guess that's right. He would trip up on the steps, and the media would. Yeah, there he is. This dopey John Howard.
Yeah. And tying all this together was another film that came. The 2+2, when I mentioned it, obviously coming here in COVID, Tony and the Assange movement gathering here blew my mind that here we have out in the open, you're able, in full view of police and the general public, you're not abiding by the regulations that were set under COVID. That's what drew me to this place. And then Joseph asking me at Hyde Park to come down, and eventually I came down. But glimpsing that, coming out of that, the town hall stairs, and going, shit, people are still living, are protesting out in the open, defying the laws under COVID. That fed in, people can do things. You can rebel against the COVID strictures. And then if you can do that, this whole hierarchical structure, this understanding that you can rebel against that. But what scared me the most was the film that followed the whole cybernetic. We are all watched over by machines of loving grace, because we are machines ourselves. Where the monkey machine and the machine and the monkey was Vice, the program in America called Vice News, or Vice. And why it went bankrupt. So there's still Vice Canada. There's still Vice, I think, in Europe, Vice France. But the one in America went bankrupt because the film that they came up with was this shadow government. How there's a shadow government in America in both health, policing, security, etc., but based on a novel from an author that looked at. So when you had the Cuban crisis in America, they had a whole bunker built. So they were expecting America, the people, to be annihilated, and everybody was to go into a bunker. Then there was a new government that was going to be formed. And then there was all these strict structures and policies that when this new government is formed, this is what health is going to look like. This is what policing is going to look like. Now, obviously that didn't happen. And then Vice came out with a program based on that book about if the Cuban crisis had happened, this is what would eventually happen. They're saying in that documentary, the shadow government, they've already enacted this, and how what they've enacted, they're happy. The current shadow government in America are happy to kill. They're happy to have policies that actively kill people, whether that be in health and policing or whatever. And that after that program viewed, Vice News in America went bankrupt and it shut down. And I'm thinking, why? Obviously, because they hit on a truth. And so then you have this whole COVID comes in, and these tech bros, I'm assuming this is being advanced. The shadow government, maybe it isn't a shadow anymore. They've actually come in and gone, and you know what? We are doing this and people are going to die. Put up with it. So that's made me what you are in front of you today, attending protests, trying to get here every Friday, but going to annual general meetings and putting the questions that my dad wanted to put on the last final days that he came to the realization when he was becoming redundant. This is what I really should have been doing, bringing the lived experience of the worker to these very formalized meetings of the people that have no idea of it, but make decisions on the workers, bringing it to them and saying, and what I have deemed is corporate democracy. That's what I've been pushing ever since 2016, 2017. I'm having a crack, but I'm not the type that goes in to a meeting and says, I have this special information, ha ha ha, I'm now calling them out. I'm going, I've gotcha. There's no gotcha moments for me. I'm trying to go into these meetings and listen to the questions that are coming up and trying to rope those questions in and then go, well, you're making these decisions, but under a corporate democracy model, these people that are asking the questions and me tying that in can also make these same decisions. There is no difference. And yet here we have a formalized meeting where you're up there, you're declaring this is our meeting and we are responsible. We have made ourselves responsible. We have given ourselves the power to enact policies over people, over the workers and what have you. And I'm just, with corporate democracy, I'm calling bullshit on that. Me today in front of you. That's it. But it scares me, but it calls me to action like my father and the hunger strikes that he had and what he did in Poland to do something about it. As simple as coming out here and holding a Assange free speech zone or what have you, but also trying to find a live TV and getting some sort of a moment, an unedited moment that would be played. I haven't got that yet, but the next best is, and then talking to individuals or having that 2-minute open mic at an annual general meeting and putting that there. Since COVID, I'm just taking the government of New South Wales or the AGL with the smart meter to court. The smart meter was the thing. Everybody's going to have a smart meter installed because we need to get to this environmental level of decarbonising society. But that's actually just putting corporations in charge of your bills without you being able to manually read your bills, getting a bill, and this is what I've consumed, and hence this number is generated, which I have to pay. And now with the smart meter, that's all gone. They're just going to give you a number and say, you got to pay this. That's so one of the court cases that I have.
No transparency in it.
Yeah. And that's where I met this Estonian lady out here who's constantly, her life is in court, which my life slowly is getting to that point where, because I'm only here today because I had to drop off some documents, get some documents stamped for a transcript of a possible compensation case that I have in a district court against the government in New South Wales. We'll see how that works. But yeah, it's either going to court, protesting, or annual general meetings and having a crack. Everybody should be doing it. Flood the courts.
Yeah.
You've got the power. AI is giving you that, giving people the power to do that. It's formal, giving you on paper the wording to go to court. Mm-hmm. I was doing it before AI, but it's giving me a better structure to actually getting at. But what I've got, when I was last in court, the magistrate, the judge was saying, Greg, you're putting views that a judge that I'm supposed to be making. So that's a little issue with AI. It's actually putting you in the seat of the judge and making you judge, giving you
the vocabulary
that a judge should be making, and it's saying you should back off.
The understanding.
Yeah. But isn't that the point?
So that's another level. The judge is up another level.
The judge making those remarks to me saying, no, you can't be putting that. I'm supposed to be making those decisions. Don't be putting that in the court. That's what I'm supposed to be making.
Yeah.
That's
so
what I was
that's like
cautioned
with
on.
with the English.
Yeah.
At year 9, was it?
That's the English, and then
with
the procedure.
You
of the
went
court.
up to some other level.
Yeah.
So then that's a better understanding. But then the judge, he's gone above the lawyer, the ordinary, what the lawyers are meant to argue.
Yeah.
But the judge is up another level to be able to be the ultimate decision maker.
Yeah.
With the ultimate understanding of the law, even though he may not have any more understanding of the law.
Well, he was the one who, Judge Esfinas, S-F-I-N-A-S. He was a prosecutor for 25 years. So he's come from prosecuting, being on the police's side, to then being made a judge. And then he's gone to remark to me, he was appointed in June. So he's one of his early cases that he's brought me on. He's gone, Mr. Simone, don't be putting those things. These are decisions I'm supposed to be putting and making. But that's what AI has given to me.
Giving that to you because.
But he's saying you're going too far. That's what I'm supposed to be putting and making and deciding.
And you're just a citizen.
I'm just trying to fight as a defendant. That's all I'm trying to do. He could have said to me, thank you for clearing up what I'm supposed to be thinking. But instead he said, no, you can't go there because that's what I'm supposed to be making. These are points that I'm supposed to be making.
It's like an unwritten rule that you've broken.
Yep.
Because you've somehow shown.
I didn't know. I'm just trying to defend my point.
I know,
my case.
Of course you didn't know.
I'm trying to defend accusations.
But for him to say, it seems strange that he would reveal that you have transgressed this kind of level of understanding.
Not me, but AI has put it.
Yeah, well, AI.
And he's gone, no, that's my domain. That's my domain. I'm trying to do my best to defend myself, Your Honour. That's it.
Maybe it's like the red carpet, you know. Yeah? Riff-raff aren't meant to walk on the red carpet.
If you want to tie that all in, there's
no
ultimate.
written law that riff-raff aren't allowed to walk on the red carpet.
And where does it say that Australian citizens are supposed to be on a certain English standard level?
No.
This is another unwritten. Also, that the makeup of the staff of a politician have to have university degrees, which was what John Howard made. Our staffers have to have a university degree.
We are all Assange.